Good morning. This is Professor Minton, and I wanted to take a few moments to welcome you to the class and to walk you through the course syllabus. I know oftentimes the students um, don't read the course syllabus, and that would be probably a mistake because the course syllabus is your roadmap for this particular class. Now, a lot of the stuff in here probably you wouldn't necessarily care about. So for example, prerequisites, co-requisites. If you haven't met the prerequisites or co-requisites, I'm going to get an email from the registrar asking if I would allow you to continue in the class, and that would be on a case-by-case basis, of course. Down here you have the course learning objectives, and all of these objectives will be tested on multiple occasions. So I'm going to be looking to see whether or not, for example, that analyze financial statements is something that I need to work on more in terms of producing more videos, or make sure that students understand particular elements of it, that sort of thing. But all of these will in fact be covered on multiple different occasions. Just kind of cursoring my way down through this, the academic dishonesty is one of those areas that you need to pay attention to. It's quite simple. If I find you cheating, then I report you to the administration, and they send you through a process. And I really am not even familiar with ABAC's process. I've been on the boards before that examine these kinds of issues, but I don't do that here at ABAC, thank heavens. But once I turn you over to them, the rest is in their hands. So, and you have appeals, and you should probably know how the appeals process works. I will tell you that the vast majority of, well, as I think about it, I can't really think of anything that doesn't fall into this category. Everything that I do is objectively scored. In other words, I don't look at you and say, okay, I don't like this person, or I do like this other person. At the end of the day, it's all about performance. And since all of the questions are objective in nature, there's no subjectivity that I allow in. Whatever you score is what you score, and that's how your grade will be determined. So hopefully that is a comfort to some of you who maybe have felt that in some classes in the past it was too subjective. That won't be the case here. You won't have to worry about that. Okay, required materials. I have the book down here. Some students try to get by just doing the PowerPoints that I provide and the supplemental videos that I provide. And I mean, that's perfectly okay if you think you can get it done that way. You don't have to buy the most recent version of the book if you do choose to buy the book. I always bought the books because, and of course I know that things have changed with the internet, but and I know that the cost of books is considerably more than it used to be when I was in school, but I always bought the books simply because it was a reference for me to have after I graduated, so that if somebody asked me a question or assumed that I knew something about human resources, I could always go back and look it up in my book. And of course, as I say, now the internet is there. You just don't know when you look on the internet at all times whether you're getting good information or something that Joe's accounting service decided to put out there. So just be careful when you use the internet. But really, I understand times have changed, and I'm not gonna make any judgments about that. If you want to buy the book, buy the book. If you don't buy the book, you're still responsible for everything that's in it. Okay? Attendance. Well, every week, as you're going to see here in a moment, every week you're going to have something due. So when I look at attendance, I look at your entry, the number of entries that you've made into Georgia View, the amount of time that you've spent in Georgia View, because that's where your quizzes will all take place, your quizzes and examinations. So you should have at least a couple of 3 entries points into Georgia View every week, and that's the way that I will look at your attendance. If you don't go to Georgia View, you don't do the homework assignments and all that sort of thing, well, that's on you, because they all have a value in terms of your grade, and we'll talk about that coming up here. In terms of professionalism, again, you're not in class, but if you want to think about it this way, it's like going to your job. If you go to your job once every 3 or 4 weeks, you're not going to be in your job for very long. So make sure you go out to Georgia View at least 2 or 3 times a week. I do post announcements out there, and I think maybe, I don't know exactly how they have it structured, but it may be a thing where if I post an announcement, it automatically goes to your phone or something. And if it does, that's fine. Nevertheless, you still have to go out to open up and complete all your homework and examination. Okay, classroom etiquette, again, that doesn't really apply, other than if you're having a communication with one of your classmates, you need to be civil and respectful. It's the same thing that you would do if you were in the classroom. Okay, here we come to the nuts and bolts of this. And this is your grading policy. And the grading policy is fairly straightforward. You have 5 modules. Module 1, homework 1 through 5. Each one of those homework assignments, you have 2 opportunities to do it. And they're each worth 4 points apiece. So a total of 20. 5 times 4, 20. Okay. Media Moguls. This is a practice set that I have created, and I'm trying to see whether you really understand chapters 1 through 5. Those are the building blocks of accounting. And if you don't understand those and haven't had a chance to really practice those, I think sometimes the next semester or 2 semesters down the road, when you get into finance and you're supposed to know this stuff, or you get into logistics and you're supposed to know this, and they're quizzing you on balance sheets and income statements and so forth, and you don't remember any of it, I think that's because you maybe haven't practiced it enough. So that's the reason for the practice set, but that's the second 20-point module, essentially. The third one is the midterm examination. And I should tell you 2 important dates. The first date that's important is tomorrow. That's the date to drop or add this particular class, or any classes that you have during the full summer session. And the 27th, I believe, of June is when you have to withdraw, if you want to withdraw from the class without academic penalty. In other words, you can have a W and that doesn't cost you anything. If you have a WF, it does. Okay? So you want to make sure that if you're struggling in the class and just don't have time for it, or whatever the case may be, if you decided that you were going to take a class and then, later on decided that you'd rather go to the beach, well, you probably should make sure that you withdraw by the 27th so it doesn't have a dramatic impact on your GPA and all those sorts of things. Okay, so those first 5 modules, okay, 1 through 5, and Media Moguls is module 2, okay, I don't have it on there, but that's what it is. Those first 5 modules, I'm only going to take the 4 highest scores that you have. Now, if you had 20s on every one of those 5 modules, I'm still only going to take the high 20 times 4, okay, so you'd have a score of 80. Now, that's because the final is a standalone. But I've given you a lot of leeway here in terms of if you're having a bad module, okay, or if you fall out of bed on the practice set or the midterm or whatever the case may be, you have an opportunity to drop one of those low scores. So, but you must take the final. So that's why it's called a standalone final examination. And so if you had a perfect score through the first 4 modules here, because I'm dropping one, and so you had a score of 80, which is the highest you possibly could have after those first 5 modules, then you would only need, if you think about it, you would only need 10 of the 20 points to get to your to get to an A in this class. So just keep that in mind. Below that, of course, this is a grading scale. It's a standard grading scale for the school. Here's your course calendar for the summer. Now, every one of these things should pop up for you on Georgia View, but that's one of the reasons that I give you this course calendar, because if it doesn't, for whatever reason, pop up, you're still responsible for it. If it's on the syllabus, it's your responsibility to take care of it. So every week you should look to see what is due that week. And if you look at the first one here, you see that you have to read chapters 1 and 2 and do the homework over both chapters. The homework is due on June the 12th. And of course, June the 1st is the last day to drop add by 4:30 in the afternoon. Chapter 3 is a standalone chapter. I don't have 2 chapters there. Most of the time I will have 2 chapters unless I consider it to be either A, a very important chapter, or B, a very difficult chapter. Chapter 3 is usually difficult for students because it deals with adjusting entries, and you've only just learned how to do regular entries. So you want to make sure that you spend an adequate amount of time on the first couple of chapters so that you get a better handle on the adjusting entries in chapter 3. And then on the next week we go back to 2 chapters, 4 and 5. Homework is due on June the 26th, and I try to indicate to you when the homework is due. If we have holidays in between there, like June 20th is a holiday, and so I won't be communicating with you on that holiday, and I've tried to make sure that I've worked these things around those holidays that you have. So this one's due, for example, June the 26th, the holiday is on the 20th. So even after the holiday, you still have 5 days in which to complete the homework assignment. Media Moguls here is a practice set, and I will have a separate video on that. And so you'll have an opportunity to see exactly how that works. I'll show you how to download the software. And you do have to download the software after the class is over. If you want to get rid of it, you may. That's up to you. But it's a nice little software package, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. But that also means because it's free, I have to do things in a certain way. So you want to pay particular attention to that video when I do post it. And that should be in the next couple of weeks. Okay? Also, let me say that, and I'll say this many times, when you do these, the Media Moguls, you'll have to do an income statement, a balance sheet, a trial balance, and so forth. And that's in the assignment description when you go out to assignments to see it. But also out there, you notice that the only way that you can submit this is through a PDF. I think there's maybe another way, but I want to say that PDF is the preferred way to do it, and I may have even limited it to PDF. When you try to upload Excel documents, Georgia View doesn't like it. And I think that's probably because of the way that we've done security, if you want to know the truth. But the Excel documents do not upload cleanly. PDFs will. Okay? And the reason that Excel is such a difficult thing is because you can put macros in Excel. And you can put macros that run in the background and maybe do harmful things to the system. So they don't like to upload Excel documents. And I think maybe you do have the opportunity directly to load the document to PDF, or documents I should say, because there are 3 or 4 of them that you have to submit. Okay, we'll get more into that later on. Don't want you to stress out over that at this point. And you know, walking down through here, you'll see exactly what's available. Usually, if I do an examination, I give you several days in which to complete the examination. So I might open it on a Monday and close it on a Sunday, and that's because I know that we're all doing things during the week. We're all busy. But if you miss the date, if you miss the due date, you get a 0. And because I'm dropping one of those scores, except the final, which I do not drop under any circumstances. But if I'm dropping one of those scores, well, that's your low score that just got dropped. Okay? I wouldn't want to chance that if I were you, because you may have another set of low scores that have to be counted. Okay, so let's see here. In Georgia View, you do have the opportunity to email me right in Georgia View. Don't use that opportunity, because I don't ever check it. All of my email addresses, and I have about 7 or 8 of them, all of my email addresses forward to the single email. So if I get it from, let's say, the ABAC email, it goes to another email. If I get it from my BUS Dr. Randy, if I get it from there, it goes to another email address. But Georgia View does not allow for forwarding. They don't allow you to forward the emails to your own personal email or another email account. So I don't think about it, and I don't use it. So if you're going to email me, you have to email me through randy.minton@avac.edu. Otherwise, I won't get it. So if you're looking for a response and you send it through Georgia View, that's the reason you didn't get a response. I think last semester I didn't look at a single one of those, and there were several of them that were sent that way. I didn't look at a single one of them because I told you, both in the syllabus and in the introduction, that I wasn't going to look at those. Okay? Now, if you need to call me, I'm giving you 2 numbers, a landline here and a Google address. Now, a Google phone number. Until about the 15th of this coming month, June, this is the best way to communicate with me if you're going to do phone, because I'll get those no matter where I'm at. And maybe it's the best way anyway. But if you're having problems getting through to me with the Google address, try this landline, because when I go up to West Virginia to do work on a house that I have up there, a rental house that I have up there, when I go up there to do that, I don't have any cell phone service. I'm out in the boondocks in the mountains. So, but I do have internet, so I can always get a Google phone call, and I can always get a landline phone call. So those are the 2 options you have if you need to call me directly. You can text me, I think, through the Google address. You cannot text through the landline, or it may say, I don't know what it actually would say, but maybe it says you got a text message and then they don't reveal it. I don't know. Anyway, try the Google address first if you're going to call. Always do make sure that you email me if you're running into a problem. Always make sure that when you email me, you identify yourself and which class you're in, because I have multiple classes and in the summer. And so I don't know which class to look in to find you, and I wind up having to look in all of them because I may not know your name yet. So make sure that you put your name and 2101 on there so that I know which class to look in. And it's usually something about, I don't understand how I got this grade, or I did this and it's not showing up, which is going to be never the case if you submitted it properly. So anyway, just keep all those things in mind. Also, examinations, you have a 2-hour time limit unless I have a document on file indicating that you have more than the 2 hours available. And if you go through student services, and if you have one of those kinds of issues, they will they will send something to me that indicates that you're allowed some deviation from the normal principle. Now, because I have people who have those deviations on file, then I always say that the examination is in compliance with those deviations, so there's an extended period of time. But if you exceed the 2-hour time limit, and this is for everybody, it'll show up as a 0, and I'll have to go in and see whether or not you have documentation on file, and if you do not have documentation on file, then you'll be penalized. If you do have documentation on file, then you will not be. But there are 2-hour time limits on all of my examinations, again, unless you have documentation indicating otherwise. And that's about it. Like I say, this is one of those situations, and all online classes are, that you need to stay current. And I know it's the summer. I know it's hard. It's hard for me. But even though it's the summer, you need to stay current, because otherwise you'll wind up at the end of the term not having done something, and then you'll want me to go back and reopen it, but I will not. I will not, because I'm giving you a entire module that you're allowed to drop. Okay, so make sure you stay current. Look at the syllabus every week. Make sure that you know exactly what's due. It should show up in your Georgia View, but whether it does or does not, you're still responsible for it. Okay? Okay, so again, if you have any questions, problems, whatever, feel free to email me at the email address that I have down here, and hopefully we'll have a very good semester. And thank you very much for attending this session. And wait a minute here. I have to talk to you about the serial problems real quick. The serial problems are something that you do not have to do. I do them for you. And the serial problems cover, if it's, say, Chapter 3 serial problems, it'll cover everything, all of the learning objectives in Chapters 1 through 3. If you're doing 4, it'll be all the way through 1 through 4. So all of those learning objectives will be encompassed in a single serial problem. Now when we get to serial problem 3, I think that's 3 different videos. They only total about an hour. So you should be able to go through them, or you should go through them, I should say, and make sure you understand all of that. But you don't have to do anything other than watch the video. Okay, thank you very much for attending, and again, if you have questions, let me know.